They're 7th in effective field goal percentage, 6th in true shooting percentage, the number 1 team in pace, and a top 5 offensive rating at 117.8, alongside the 9th best defensive rating, giving them a 6.2 net rating, putting them 4th best in the league. By these numbers, you would think I'm talking about one of the best teams in the league, a potential championship contender. The team has a superstar guard, which leads their team from the top of the ball and applies arguably the most rim pressure in the entire league. An up-and-coming big man with Defensive Player of the Year level rim protection, but also an offensive game that perfectly complements the guard. A third option who is an offensive Swiss Army knife with a jump shot and off-the-dribble game, unlike any other third option in the league. Along with the big three, the team has an immense amount of depth with players that take smaller roles just to be on this team. They have the 4th best record in the NBA and are rarely spoken of in the same regard as these high-level contenders like the Celtics, Thunder, and Cavaliers. If you haven't figured it out by now, the team I'm talking about are the Memphis Grizzlies, who as of the time of recording are sitting at 2nd in a loaded Western Conference. When looking at their team's point of difference, it comes from their heavily underrated two-headed monster, which has slowly had a change in leadership. If we were to look at the Grizzlies 2 to 4 years ago, collectively the NBA community would have said that Ja Morant would be running this team, and most would be saying that he would be potentially a top 5 player in the NBA. Though Ja hasn't had the year most were expecting, he has still brought a massive amount of rim pressure around a team full of spot-up shooters, with an average of 8.1 shots per game within 8 feet, which is the 4th most by a guard in the NBA, only behind the likes of RJ Barrett, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, and SGA. At the same time, he is continuing to still play the role of main playmaker and ball handler. Out of players who have played at least 35 games, an average of 24 minutes a game, he lands at 10th in assist percentage, which is just how many total shots they assist on whilst they're on the court. This pretty much shows that he runs the team from the top to bottom. However, his biggest issues this season have been with his efficiency. This year, shooting a very below average 43.4% from the field, which puts him only in the 35th percentile of players who have played at least 30 games this year. In field goal percentage, out of the 85 players that shoot at least 12 shots a game, he ranks at 64th, putting him in the bottom 25% of those players. On top of that, his shooting from deep has been abysmal, only shooting a measly 29.7% on 5 attempts per game, which makes him the worst out of those players that shoot at least 5 threes a game. The player that has led the way this year, however, is Triple J, Jaren Jackson, who has taken those reins with a firm grip, cementing himself as a top 20 to 15 player in the league, and arguably a top 5 center. After the year without Ja Morant, he had to take a much more offensive dominant role, and has taken that role and consistently maintained that this season after the return of Ja to the team. He has improved from a catch-and-shoot big man to a player that can take you off the dribble, a smooth face-up game, and a very consistent floater, while still playing at an all-world level defender role, which is a whole other part of his game. He's averaging a smooth 23 points and 6 rebounds on a solid 49.7% from the field and shooting 36.1% from 3. All those stats are improvements from his 2023 season without Ja Morant, and by maintaining his offensive output from last year to this year and improving on it, he has taken that number 1 role of Ja and cemented himself as one of the best big men in the league. At the same time, he has maintained his defensive dominance that he had throughout his career, spanning back to his Defensive Player of the Year season. This year he is averaging 1.7 blocks per game, which puts him at 7th in the league, and 1.3 steals, which ranks him at 38th per game, and is one of only 4 players in the league who is averaging 1 steal and 1.5 blocks per game, which puts him in the company of other defensive stalwarts such as Anthony Davis and Nicholas Claxton. And of course that guy, because of course he'd be on that list. The complementing piece to this team is arguably the best third option in the league in Desmond Bane, who to be fair isn't having his best season, but is still having a solid season. averaging 18.1 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, and has taken the predominant second playmaking role on the team by averaging 5.5 assists, along with a steal a game. He is in a group of only 11 players averaging 18 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5.3 assists a game. And that number shortens down to only 7 when you include the steal a game. All his numbers are up outside of points due to the comeback of Ja to the team, but his efficiency has made up for the decrease in points. Along with the big three, they have arguably the best depth in the league with complementary pieces like Santi Aldama, who is a solid stretch big / mega wing who plays all the roles on the team, but predominantly is a great help with the team spacing around Ja. The sharpshooter Luke Kennard, who's having a resurgent year for the Grizzlies, averaging 9.3 points a game on 47.2% from 3. The big rookie, Zach Edey, who in moderate amount of playing time has become the semi-permanent backup center and a presence inside on defense and the rim deterrent when Triple J is off the court. The player you may have noticed I've left out is the budding star in rookie Jalen Wells, who is providing wing offense and a young potential star that could potentially be the perfect fourth piece to the puzzle to coexist along Ja, Triple J, and Desmond Bane. Wells is averaging an efficient 11.3 points, 3.2 rebounds, and 1.6 assists a game, with an effective catch and shoot game and shooting a solid 38.2% from 3. Along with the young rookie star Jalen Wells, they have a second-year player in Gigi Jackson, who is a great shooter, great defender, and fills in that secondary forward spot alongside the likes of Santi Aldama. He, I think, is one of the players that if given the right opportunity and put in the right spacing, can be a great player and could be the better player out of Jalen Wells and him. The thing all these depth pieces have in common is they are all Swiss Army knives and are able to play complementary roles without demanding the ball constantly on offense. Along with all of them being above average shooters, it has led to the team being 11th in total threes made and 10th in percentage from 3. Now, post me writing the script for this video, the Memphis Grizzlies have gone on to lose 2 games in a row. A 113-114 loss to the New York Knicks, where OG Anunoby scored a game-winning shot with 5 seconds left. This game, the only reason it was competitive was because of Memphis's defense. And they lost the game on the back of their absolutely terrible shooting an abysmal 13% from 3, going 4 for 31, and a poor performance off Jaren Jackson, who went 6 for 16 and 1 for 5 from 3. However, to be fair to him, the big three as a whole, Ja, Desmond, and Jaren, went a combined 1 for 15 from 3. Then, they lost to the San Antonio Spurs in a 128-130 game, where De'Aaron Fox scored another game winner with 2.6 seconds left. In fairness to Memphis, they came into this game without Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Vince Williams, and Brendan Clark. So it was a Jaren Jackson show. And to be fair to him, he had a career performance, dropping 42 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. All this on great efficiency, shooting 5 for 8 from 3. What these 2 games do show, however, is that their losing points are number 1, availability, and having issues with the health of their players, and number 2, their inconsistent shooting, which is something they need to hope they can fix by the time the playoffs come around. The other thing these 2 games have showed us is that Jaren Jackson is head and shoulders above Ja Morant in the pecking order for who the best player on this team is. When trying to hold the team on his own, he stood up outside of something that Ja Morant would do. When looking at the landscape of the Western Conference, it feels as though the consensus is that Oklahoma City will be able to breeze through the West with no worries. But I wouldn't count the Grizzlies out when talking about the best teams in the league. They've got the big man, they've got the star guard, and the third option, and all the depth in the world. Don't be surprised if this is the same team that's pushing the Thunder to 7 in the edge of a playoff series when we get there. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like. If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. and comment on any other teams you would like me to make content about or talk about. In the meantime, thank you for watching and have a blessed one.